Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Twins Show. Today we're talking about why you should be thinking about financial independence and mini retirements. So, Nicole, what is one reason why people should start thinking about financial independence for themselves and mini retirements?
Okay, I'm going to start off with a hot one right now. So, the first reason why I believe people need to think about financial independence is because we've been lied to. The number
Mm.
65 actually doesn't mean the same thing that it used to. Now, the reason why I say that is Nadia, do you know why the age 65 was actually picked in terms of retirement?
I don't know. Was it something with the New Deal or something? I don't know.
It was kind of around that time because it came around, the Great Depression. And the reason is in 1934, it was chosen to be the age of 65 based on some actuarial studies, which means studies that determine how long people normally live. That if you pick the age of 65, people that we require Social Security will actually not be that much of a burden
I was
in
thinking,
terms
yep.
of higher taxation. Okay. Because
Also, many
people,
people probably didn't live up to that age anyway, too.
exactly. I think the average age at that time was actually 67.
Okay.
Okay. So 65, not too many people were supposed to get Social Security. So they thought, okay, having that number there will be a good amount where it could be self sustaining, but also not be that much of a burden in terms of taxation. Okay. So the number 65 is not written in stone, especially since we are living way past the age of 65, especially here in America. So taking that number at 65 as the year when you can actually retire to age is not something you need to think about. Okay. You can determine when you want to retire and also how do you want to live your life way before the age of 65. So don't fall for the number 65. This is why you need to think about financial independence because you do not have to wait until the age of 65 before you get to retire.
I agree with that. Now, that brings me to one of my points. I was thinking, you know what? Life is the longest thing we do, but if you look at it, it's relatively short, right? So if you spend most of your life working and thinking, okay, I'll eventually get to it, you'll never get to it. And I think that's one of the reasons why many retirements are important to people. And I think more people should start trying them. Think about it. If you take a mini retirement, I'm not saying you don't have to like your job or anything like that. Look at a mini retirement as a way to reassess what's actually important to you. Because you know what? Our health could go at any time. But if you look at a mini retirement, and when I say mini retirement, I'm thinking 6 months, a year, even 2 years. If you look at the big scheme of things, 1 or 2 years out of your life doing something that you think will actually bring you joy, it's not a big, like, it's not going to be that consequential, right? And instead of regretting that you never took that time, I think taking a mini retirement, especially if you're in a field that has a lot of transferable skills, could be beneficial for you. The reason why is because, you know what? Maybe what you think now that is important to you, when you take this mini retirement, you actually find out what actually is important to you. But you'll never give yourself a chance to really find that out if you don't take yourself out of that rat race, out of that go, go, go mentality, and actually sit back and say, these are the things that are really important to me.
Yeah, they say that no one on their deathbed has ever said, I wish I worked more.
Hmm.
Okay. So we have to think about that. We have to learn to live life because we only get one shot at this. As far as I know, no one has told me any different. Maybe someone might know. But because we only get one shot at this, having that time to say, I'm going to experience life a little more and take a mini retirement is not something I think anybody would regret. Like we have a couple of friends, even I have taken sabbaticals
Hmm.
and did not regret taking that sabbatical because not only will it allow you to avoid burnout, it also opens you up to more opportunities and more possibilities of what you can do in life. And it can turn you into a whole different person. But you have to give yourself that chance in order to do it. So that's why you have to be able to say, how can I give myself a mini retirement where I'm not going to fully leave the job market if I don't want to for years on end, but what can I do to give myself some other options? And one of those ways to get the options is to start striving for financial independence.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. My thing is this: when you look at financial independence, if you look at it for maintaining financial independence for a long amount of time, it's actually a lot of money you may need depending on your living costs, right? But if you look at it as, okay, I need this amount of money in order to not depend on an employer for sustaining my lifestyle for the next 1 or 2 years, that's a more manageable chunk that you can actually think about and actually strive towards. And that may be something that, it may take you 1 or 2 years in order to come up with that money. Maybe it takes you 5 years. But the time that you're able to take that mini retirement and do what you want to do, it's invaluable. So if you look at maybe, oh, I feel like it's too late for me to reach financial independence to live the rest of my life not working for someone, maybe look at it as, okay, if I save this amount of money and I keep my expenses low, I'm able to maintain my lifestyle and live on my own with the money I have coming in without the need of an employer for 1 or 2 years. Maybe start off with 6 months and then you get into that groove instead of always working all the time and not exactly enjoying the money that you're making.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, just thinking about financial independence makes you more intentional with what you're going to do with your money,
Hmm.
right? Because what you tend to focus on tends to be what your actions go to. So if you just start thinking about how can I start striving for financial independence, and like Nadia is saying, it doesn't have to be 25 years worth of financial independence. It could be 1 or 2 years to give yourself some cushion to be able to do whatever you want to do. But just giving that intention in your head will make your actions more intentional and allow you to do so much more with your money.
My thing is, if you look at mini retirements, and I think people might be shocked, like, why are they preaching mini retirement? I think a lot of people already take mini retirements. They don't categorize them as such. Let's say you're in a career and you say, you know what? I want to change careers. I'm going to go back to school and get a degree in that field, and you stop working for a couple of years. In my opinion, that's like a mini retirement. You're taking time out from work and you're going back to school, and maybe you're pursuing a different professional career, or maybe you're pursuing a higher degree to get a higher level in your field. That could be a mini retirement. Also, if you look at what a mini retirement is, it's cutting back on the amount of time you work. Now, if you want, instead of taking a year or two off, you can look at it as saying, you know what, let me cut down on the number of days a week or the number of days a month I actually work. That's a form of mini retirement too. And this actually can give you the best of both worlds. Not only are you still making money from an employer, but you're also putting time aside to start focusing on the things you want to do. Now, this may not work in every field, but if you're a person who has a lot of transferable skills, or you can become a contractor in your field, this is something that could be like a very good thing for you to look into, because now you have more control of your time. And when it comes to many retirements, you don't want it forced on you. Your employer can terminate your employment at will. And then you're going to be forced to have a mini retirement because you don't know how long it's going to take you to find another job. So rather than waiting for that to happen, because it may or may not happen, be more in control. And you're saying, I'm going to take this into my hands. Instead of making someone force a mini retirement on me, let me be intentional with my money so that I can be in control of when I want to take that break from work.
Another reason why mini retirement is good to think about is because there's a big identity shift, right? Now, when we talk about retirement, it doesn't mean you're going to quit working and then sit on the couch, okay? You're going to be able to do other things, right? You might even want to start a business during your mini retirement. Just explore other life options, but taking that mini retirement before you actually retire helps you deal with the identity shift that comes from going from an employee to not being an employee. That's one of the hardest things that happens when people retire, and they don't know what to do with themselves a lot of times because they never thought about what retirement would look like for them. But if you take many retirements and you have a plan of what you're going to do during those 6 months or a year, it gives you a little taste of what it's like to not be an employee, give you time to adjust, but also give you some type of a schedule when you are in mini retirement. But you have to think about those things before it actually happens.
Yeah, I think the fire movement in general had bad PR when people hear financial independence, retire early, because they assume there's a bunch of people who are sitting around doing nothing all day. That's not the case at all. If you are the person watching this video and you are pursuing financial independence, you already know you're not the type of person who wants to sit around all day and do whatever, right? You're probably going to be more of an ambitious person. And ambitious people have other goals they want to do. Now, sometimes you don't have enough hours in the day to pursue everything you want. So maybe it's time to take a step back. Maybe you want to become an actor and you always wanted to do this and pursue it as a dream, or a singer. Maybe you could take a mini retirement in order to start taking lessons, start really pursuing that, and then go back to what you wanted to do. But retiring early does not mean the same definition of retiring when you're like in your 60, late 60s, 70, and you no longer have the ability to work in some cases. And I think if you look at the data, more and more people are not able to work as they get older. And that's just from physically and mentally, right? So having that time to take now and say, you know what, I can retire early at a earlier age and actually do what I want to do and actually enjoy that. That's something that should be spread among more people. And that bad PR of having people think, oh, you're just sitting around doing nothing, you're lazy. It's quite the opposite.
I mean, if you look at financial independence as a journey and also many retirements, it's actually you giving yourself a gift and providing yourself with a luxury for the hours that you have worked, right? If you're
Hmm.
working hard, and I don't know why it's necessary to feel like you have to suffer when you're working, right? Working can be used as a means to end. And one of those means or one of those ends could be taking time out for yourself. Now, another way you can have a retirement is by taking time out the workforce to raise your children. That's a very noble thing to do. And if any parent could do it, I'm sure they will love it, right? Because that's something you can give to your child that may not have been given to you. So it's not like I need to work and I need to work long hours because I need to suffer. And that's what you do through these years. You have to suffer and then you get to have and enjoy it later on. No, you don't have to see it like that. You can say, I'm going to take some time, get my money up correctly, use this job as a means to live the quality of life that I want. Now, I want to go back to what you were saying, Nadia, how people are working longer and longer in their ages, and also they might not be able to work even if they want to work. And
Hmm.
this is what I call life happens, right? Because as long as we're alive, we're going to have expenses, right?
Yep.
But that does not mean we're going to be able to work in order to cover those expenses. So, because of that reason, you have to have some form of income that's coming in that is not related to your job. Because if not, and not all of us have pensions, okay? And it might even happen before you qualify for Social Security and even your retirement accounts to kick in, right? So you have to be able to understand that life will happen and you have to be prepared for that. And thinking about financial independence will help you cover that ground.
Yeah, even if you don't reach financial independence, if you have some money coming in from hopefully a passive source, it will still give you some kind of cushion that will help protect you if things go south, right? But when you were talking, I remember a funny story when I was traveling in France on my own. I was driving and I stopped at a rest stop, right? And I sat down and I had a table to myself, but then a family sat next to me and they started speaking to me. And they said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm taking 3 weeks off. I'm traveling through France." And they said, "Oh, what did you do?" I said, "Oh, I used to work in financial services and I worked this many hours. So I retired 10 years ago, 11 years ago." And I was speaking to the father and telling the father the amount of hours I worked and how long I did it. He was like, well, it makes sense because the amount of hours you did in that short amount of time, you probably worked more hours than I did my whole life of working. And he was like 20 years older than me. He goes, the hours actually even out. And he was just like, why were you working that many hours? And I think that perspective, it's so different when you're thinking it from like an American point of view. It's like, no, we just work, 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 work. That it's not like that in other parts of the world. And if you take many retirements, I suggest you go to other parts of the world and see what it's like to live there. And maybe you'll find out, like, maybe this might suit me more going forward.
I want to say, Nadi, you're so bougie. I
I
went to
was I
France.
was
I
driving. I
was at
didn't
a,
have anybody
I
else
was at a
driving
rest
me.
stop. I was 3 weeks in
Ew,
France.
how is it bougie? A rest stop on the side of a highway. Okay.
3 weeks spending in France. Well, anyway, but you made me think of a good point, which is if you think about financial independence and many retirements, and you think about, okay, how can I use the hours I'm working to help benefit me? Thinking about financial independence actually might have you make more money at work. Okay. Because you'll say, okay, if I need to get this amount of money up and I want to quit working at this age, then what do I need to do to get to that point? I need to make more money in terms of working more hours or have higher skills that allow me to get promoted that will allow me to make more money, right? You don't always have to work more hours to get more money. You can just get more money during the hours that you work. So thinking about financial independence that way can actually help you strive to be a better employee and get promoted and actually make your life easier and get paid more money at the same time. You see, that's the way you should think about it.
I agree. There's two ways to skin a cat, right? But my thing is also people might look at this video and say, "Oh, you're saying it like it's so easy. You take 1 or 2 years off of work, and then when you go back into trying to get a job, it's going to be so hard because nobody going to want you because they see this gap in your resume." I will say to that, yeah, that could happen. But also, you know what could happen? Just from my own experience, if you are a competent person, jobs are going to come your way. It may not come on your timeline, but it probably come to you when you're not even thinking about it or even looking for a job. I can tell you right now, I still get job offers all the time. I'm not looking at it at all. But because you are a competent person, and if you have some skills that are behind you and you have education or any kind of skill set that is in the field that is in demand, don't worry about being able to find a job. Okay. And you might understand after doing these mini retirements, you may not need as much money as you did before. So it probably will be easier for you to find a job that works with the lifestyle you want and gives you the money you need in order to continue the way you want to live and be able to take these mini lifestyles. So don't let people see gaps in your resume as a problem. It's not a problem. Don't let that stop you.
We sound like it's so easy, but Nadia and I have done some hard things, right? We have times where we've been working 60-hour weeks and actually going back to school at night. So this is not something, we didn't have a silver spoon given to us. We
Hmm.
decided to take and put in that work in order to get some results from it, right? So everybody's going to work hard, it's just choosing on what you're going to work hard on. Okay, if you work hard on yourself at night, you will get the rewards at the end of the day. It might
Yep.
come in the form of, Nadia said, offers that even years past that you stop working, but it's because you put in that work. Don't expect something from doing nothing. But if you do the work and you get tired from doing it, it will eventually pay off. Now, with that, I do want, we've talked a lot about thinking about financial independence and many retirements. I do want to not just give different reasons. I want to give someone a framework or a strategy that they can use in order to help them start thinking about financial independence and make this a practical video. With that, I got a 3-step strategy that I would like you guys to use if you're interested in thinking about financial independence, and if this video has helped you, kind of change your mindset. Okay, with that, and also thinking about many retirements. The first thing I want you to do is to design your ideal lifestyle, right? This means taking time out your day, even if it's with a journal, right? Get a cup of coffee or tea, sit down with a journal and really visualize, what do you want your lifestyle to be like if money was already covered for you to cover that expense or your expenses? What would that look like to you, right? Where would that be? How much money would that require? Write those things down, because as you visualize it, and like I said, the more you think about things and you focus on it, the more it has a chance of actually becoming a reality. Okay. Number two, I actually wrote this down because I'm trying to be good. I want you to create an income generating plan. That means you have to start investing outside of your retirement accounts. That's the first thing. Number two, because I said life happens, remember that? You have to find a way to start investing in assets that give you some type of cash flow. This is not a game, okay? We all going to go through life. If you understand how different life can be, if you have a higher quality of life versus having one with a lower quality of life that's in your control, then you understand the importance of having assets that are going to be cash flowing assets. Nadia and I have assets in terms of the stock market. We have real estate and we also have business. Those are assets that give us cash flows, and that's why we pay attention to them. And then the third thing, I want you to prioritize flexibility and sustainability. You need to start budgeting for not just short term needs, but also long term savings. Anything else you want to say, Nadia?
I would say I agree with what you said, and I think everybody watching this video, it makes sense, right? Like I'm sure you're getting it. My thing is this: the earlier you can start this, the better. Don't wait until something knocks you in your tracks and makes you realize that this is something that you need. Why wait for that? There's no need for it. Plan it now so that if something does happen, you're not caught off guard. I have a friend going through this right now. He was striving for getting his PhD. He had a new job. He had a new baby, new family, and all of a sudden he had a health crisis, and then it made him realize exactly what was important to him, and what he was stressing out for the last 2 years actually doesn't mean anything to him. So don't wait until something happens like that before you get a grip on this and say, you know what? Instead of thinking about a savings plan, I need an income plan. Instead of thinking what everybody's telling me what's important to me, how about I sit down and say, this is actually what's important to me? And then you'll see it probably is a lot easier to reach it than you think. So be flexible, but start early. That's the only thing I would add to that. Start earlier rather than later because you don't want to regret the time that you're losing by not doing this.
Not even start early. Start now.
Just start.
Okay? Start
Just
now.
start. Even
Okay?
if
Yeah,
you're
they say the
doing
best time to
20%, just
they
start. You're going to be a lot
yep,
better
just
off.
start. Stop like there's so many people that write us and they're saying, I don't know if it's too late. I need those people and everyone watching this to stop thinking. Stop thinking so hard and just start.
Yep.
Because once you start, then you can actually start making some moves. But if you're contemplating it and all you're doing is contemplating, the days will keep passing you by. So the idea is to start. Now, I know this was some tough love on this video. I hope that we did help you. If you did enjoy this video and you'd like to hear more of our opinions and also what we think about many retirements, financial independence, and investing, please join our Wealth Pack newsletter. So the link is down below in the description box.
If you guys want to hear more about financial independence, check out the next video coming up.